I helped several.
Yeah, it's for you. For me, it's awesome because I had never been in a trailer before, and so I was like, just give it a little gas and it takes care of it. But for you, it'll be like reverse. So like, John, are you ready?
I am ready. Kenji, you ready?
My house is like the mini Waltons, you know.
All right, it's 5:30. We're going to go ahead and get started tonight. Call the meeting to order and invite everybody to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jim, do we need to do anything formally to appoint a chair tonight?
You should have a motion to appoint the deputy supervisor for chair of the meeting, yes.
Okay. Is anybody here willing to make that motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to appoint the deputy supervisor to chair this evening's meeting.
Support.
All right. For the record, I'm the deputy supervisor, so.
Sorry.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, that motion passes 5-0. Moving on, remote location identification. We don't have anybody attending remote tonight, so we're going to skip past that.
Yep.
And I would invite a member of this body to read the core value on the
I
packet.
think I can take that. It's a very easy one tonight. Core value, public service.
Very serious. Excellent. All right. Item number 5 is the approval of our agenda. Is there anybody wishing to make any modifications or remove any items?
No, but I would like to comment that I had hoped that we would have on our agenda a discussion or update about the smoke issue going on 6th Street. And so I don't know that there's any report from anyone, so I guess I'll just leave it as that and say I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Hopefully next meeting we'll have an actual line item for that.
Okay.
Support.
We have a motion and support to adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted 5-0. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with our working session. Item A is presentation, Kalamazoo County Winter Shelter Funding Request. We've got Willa, the Deputy Director from Kalamazoo Housing Department, here with us today. Uh-oh. Let me see if I got to work this over here.
Oh. You don't want to set a timer.
You got her? Okay, thank you, guys.
Do I need to, oh, it's on, okay, cool. Whew, all right. So thank you, trustees, for entertaining this presentation tonight. Last winter was the first year that Kalamazoo County, the City of Kalamazoo, and the Continuum of Care, which is housed at the United Way of South Central Michigan, we coordinated a winter shelter response by intentionally pooling resources. The county has sent a request letter from our board chair, and I am here tonight asking Oshtemo Township to join us in this partnership for the upcoming winter. But first, I wanted to provide a little bit of background information as to, some of the many reasons why we have unhoused folks in Kalamazoo County. So in 2022, and then it was updated in 2025, the W.E. Upjohn Institute conducted a housing study for Kalamazoo County. In that study, we identified a shortage of 8,000 housing units that are going to be needed by the year 2030. That was the most recent update. Actually, the number increased to that 8,000 number. So initially it was around 7,500 units. We also do not have wages increasing at the same rate as housing prices. So more and more people who are in that, they call it the asset population, asset limited, income restrained. They are, one health emergency, one car repair away from not being able to pay for their housing and other needs. That being said, the housing millage so far, 4 years in, is we're levying now a little over $9 million a year, which means that our taxable value in the county is increasing. So 2021 was our first levy, and we brought in it was about $6.5 million. We're now up closer to 9.5, which is great. That means more money that we can put back into our community. These are the 4-year outcomes as of 2025. So we have funded a little over 1,800 new housing units with the housing millage. Of those, approximately 1,000 are under construction or occupied already. We have done critical home repair on 355 owner-occupied housing units, and funded a total of 17 local nonprofits for supportive services. This shows we switched our graphic designer this past year, so I have 2 separate maps here for you. The map on your left shows the first 3 years of millage impact. As you can actually, it's pretty hard to see at this point, but the dots in blue were from the 2022 funding round. As you can see, most of those are concentrated in the city of Kalamazoo. That's where a lot of our housing development was happening at the time, and a lot of our nonprofits were poised and ready to take advantage of the millage when funding was available. But throughout the years, the amount of dollars have gradually been spreading out throughout the county. It is a countywide housing millage, and so the housing department and county board has made an effort to try to solicit applications for projects and proposals throughout the county. That brings us to more of the requests for why I'm here today. Last winter, we pooled approximately $700,000 of initial funding with the city, county, and COC. It funded 3 primary shelter services for the winter. The first was shelter access coordination through HRI. We did overnight congregate shelter through Ministry with Community, and then Dignity in Motion, and in partnership with Western Medicine, did a medical respite program for folks who would have been exiting the hospital into homelessness. We realized in January that we still had some gaps in service, particularly for families, and additional congregate shelter capacity, and so additional funding from the county went into family shelter. The city funded additional shelter beds through Kalamazoo Gospel Mission. Overall, we sheltered 689 unduplicated individuals across these programs for the winter months. We also know that these efforts weren't enough, and additional temporary programs had to be funded through community organizations, volunteer groups, such as Heads and Beds, and then additional warming centers at churches and stuff. But we have had some significant system changes since last winter. The county has funded several new year-round resources. So the biggest investment from the county was the landing place that opened in May of 2026. It can shelter up to 75 families with children. This was a total cost of a little less than $10 million to purchase and renovate this hotel. The county is spending a little over $3 million annually to operate it. And that was funded through an anonymous donation that we received in December of last year. The second initiative that was funded through the county is a permanent medical respite program. So we now have 365 days a year of medical respite. And the final big system change is 24-hour shelter access and diversion coordination through HRI. That's available 24/7, 365 days a year. However, we know that there are still gaps that remain. Demand for services and risks related to unsheltered homelessness increase during winter months, so we will continue to have a need for temporary support while we work on additional long-term solutions. This year, the Continuum of Care developed a request for proposals in partnership with the county and the city of Kalamazoo, and that RFP was open through last Friday, the 21st. Proposals will be reviewed by the city, county, and COC staff to make sure that we have covered gaps that we recognize are going to we're going to be there from what we learned last year. And once those are reviewed, it will be approved by the COC Board of Directors. Contracts between the COC and selected providers will be finalized in October, and services are expected to begin November 1st and last through March 31st of 2027. Some of the items that we are going to be looking to fund are overnight shelter, both congregate and non-congregate, day shelter, emergency severe weather responses. So last year, we know that we had a number of days where the temperature did not get above 0 degrees and the wind chill was below freezing. And so at that time, additional effort was made to bring in folks who are very hesitant to come into shelter inside. And we are very fortunate that we didn't have any freezing deaths during those weather events. So why are we asking Oshtemo to participate? People experiencing housing crises do not necessarily remain within municipal boundaries. Emergency shelter, hospitals, law enforcement, these emergency services are used by residents from every jurisdiction in Kalamazoo County. And a coordinated system reduces fragmentation in our system. So participation from surrounding jurisdictions demonstrates that winter shelter is a shared responsibility and not just that of the jurisdictions where shelters are located. If you are to consider the county's request of funding, there are two options for partnership. The first would be to pool funding with Kalamazoo County, where we could provide all the oversight and compliance for the initiative with the oversight and compliance with the continuum of care. The second would be to contract directly with the continuum of care, which would allow more direct oversight and involvement in the ongoing operations throughout the winter. Regardless of solutions, the county and the housing department are committed to ongoing communication throughout the winter months about, developments that we're seeing and, additional resources that might be needed or are being deployed. So we would like to continue to keep communication open no matter what the board decides to do tonight. Any questions?
I have several questions. First of all, I'm absolutely in support of providing assistance, financial assistance for people, that are unhoused, particularly in the winter. However, it seems very vague to me, and I understand that the proposals are not back in. But I have just concerns and a lot of questions because I recall, I don't remember if it was a couple years ago, there was an initiative that brought homeless folks to one of our hotels here, up off of 11th Street. And first of all, we weren't told about it until it was already in the works. But then they did come and give a presentation and assured us that they had 24/7 security and everything was going to be fine. And what happened was our county deputies ended up going there often. Shootings, stabbings, there were a lot of problems. So I'm just wondering, first of all, is there a possibility that some of this would be in Oshtemo? And what are those concerns being brought into play? And then my other question, well, I'll let you answer those first. Sorry.
So the first, to answer, from a few years ago, I do remember those efforts and initiatives. That was not part of this coordinated approach. That was funded, it was sort of funded by one-off organizations and didn't receive any public dollars into those. And so there was a lot less oversight and control that we can have as public bodies when it's private donation money that are funding those initiatives. And so that was part of the reason why we decided to do this last year, is that this way we're able to vet providers, we can provide oversight, compliance, make sure that staffing that is promised is actually being provided, and step in if things are not going, is according to plan and as promised. So I think that we even learned lessons from last year's initiative as well, about additional oversight that will probably be needed on these projects. And I think that we, have a few years under our belt, and we are anticipating receiving proposals from experienced organizations that have years worth of knowledge and staffing capabilities to provide these services in a way that is, appropriate for public dollars.
And that's what I guess I would want to see the proposals come back, and I would want to see examples of, okay, they've done this already and it's worked out, because they had X, Y, and Z in place. And then I was going to ask if we would, if the people that were donating or the municipalities that are donating would have a say when the proposals come back, and a say in it, would that be option 2 that you showed, that we would have some oversight?
Yes, so I think that unfortunately, it's already August, and so we have put out the RFP, proposals have come back. I haven't seen any of the ones that came back, but I think we would need to identify, who from participating townships would want to be involved in the review and oversight fairly quickly, so we can make sure we have contracts signed and operations ready to go November 1st.
Okay, so you would need an answer from us by when?
The sooner the better. We would need to have somebody identified likely by next week is what I would imagine.
Okay, and again, I'm in support of it,
Yeah.
100%. I just want to make sure that we don't have a repeat of the situations that we had.
No, I think that it's everybody feels it, like we want to make sure that we are running projects and funding them with public dollars that, are properly staffed, are providing the correct services and needs and meeting the needs of the people being served as well as the surrounding communities.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too. We, obviously, if we're putting, families, let's say, that, in with people that have issues that bring problems to we want them to be safe as well. So I guess when do we expect the proposals back?
So the RFP closed on Friday, so I'm assuming that we should be getting them from the COC sometime this week or early next week to look at. And then they ultimately are getting approved by the Continuum of Care Board, not the county and city of Kalamazoo. But we are taking a look at it and examining and making sure that we have the correct proposals. So last year, we didn't get any emergency winter weather hotel project proposals. If we aren't receiving those this year, that is something that we would likely go out and solicit an organization to provide, knowing that we do need to have that on hand if the weather is going to be below 0 again.
Okay, I would be in support of this. I would prefer option 2, though, that we have some oversight.
I have a question. How much of the housing millage is going towards this type of work? Not just housing, not just building houses, but providing emergency shelter, homeless options?
So we have tried to focus our housing millage in the past few years on building additional housing resources and then providing housing support. So in the first few years of funding, we weren't doing any sheltering with housing millage dollars. That changed when the county decided to purchase the landing place, or the hotel that has become the landing place. So that was going to be funded through housing millage dollars, the operations on that, until we received a donation to cover that so that we could continue to do some of the work that we're doing to build affordable housing projects.
And I'm all for doing everything possible to provide options, especially in the winter or in very hot summer days. But we've millaged our citizens, and part of that was, to quote, was related supportive services. And I take this as related supportive services. So shouldn't more of the millage go toward the immediate issue that we have on hand? So that's the first question. The second question, we've had several housing developments or projects in this township. And every time I've asked, have any of the housing dollars gone to it? It's always a no. Either it's too complicated or there's other problems associated with it. So I'm just somewhat hesitant in providing additional tax dollars when we've millaged our citizens and we're not using that money for the immediate problem. And we're building housing, but our developers are having trouble accessing it. So I'm not sure that the answer is just throwing more dollars at it. It's perhaps using the dollars we have in a more prioritized manner.
Yeah, I think that that is, so the Board of Commissioners at the county sets our sort of buckets of funding every year out of what we have in grant distribution. And so typically the largest bucket of funding has been for multifamily housing development. The last year, we didn't put any dollars into single family. The gap on those projects right now is just way too high to make it feasible when we're trying to fill that 8,000 unit gap. And so the rest of it has gone to critical home repair so we can make sure that our existing housing stock is staying, safe and livable, and then supportive services. So I think that we absolutely can examine spending more dollars on supportive services and less on the development piece. But that also, we have to be receiving applications for that because the county isn't administering programs directly right now.
The next question is, what is the occupancy rate at the 75-unit facility for families?
As of last Friday, I believe they had 3 vacant rooms that were being turned over.
Because even in this township, as I go out with my kids, for lack of other terms, I will call them van families that exist throughout our community, mostly unseen by people, but yet we have a facility with occupancy. How do we get them into consideration for that? Because it breaks my heart to take my kids out and see other families living in a van, moving from place to place so they don't get in trouble.
So all shelter access right now, it goes through HRI. They have if you call their main number and press number 1, they can get an immediate assessment for the landing place. And our hope is to build out that shelter access resource so that we have our additional shelters participating in the county. That is ongoing work that will also be continued with this winter shelter initiative. Any of the participating shelters will use shelter access coordination from HRI. So it means that there's basically one front door for all the shelter resources. You're assessed and referred to the appropriate resource for you.
Up to this point, I assume you've reached out to other townships as well? And have you had commitments from the other townships?
So yesterday, I presented to Texas Township, and they have opted not to participate this year. They did say that they'll look at putting it into their budget for next year. The city of Portage is examining it today, and we haven't had requests to present at any of the other townships yet.
Thank you.
To piggyback off trustee Chapman, being as large as we are, Oshtemo Township has contributed $848,000 to the housing fund this year. Well, for the 2025 tax year, so, yeah, just in April.
Yeah, I had that, until 2025, so the first 4 years, $2,344,486.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add for the board's edification and also for the deputy director, when you go to townships, you may very well run into the issue of we are not allowed to make donations. That is prohibited under state law. You can, though, because you have housing authority under Act 18 of 1933. You have the authority to basically, you can't pool it, you can contract for services, basically. So we would have to go through a contract either with the county or with the alternative that was suggested. So either way, if you decide to move forward, you're going to have to do it in the form of a contract.
Okay. Form of a contract, but either of the 2 options that are presented would be valid.
Yeah, you can contract with the county, you can contract with
Continuum of care.
the continuum of care. I do think you have to qualify what your funds are used for. I don't think you can use them for, food, clothing, anything like that. You can do shelter, basically, and that's it. I can't find any other authorization under state law. And the first premise of any lawful expenditure by a township is it authorized by state law. And then if it is, if you're not providing it, you can contract to provide it, but you cannot just simply donate and let somebody else use the funds.
Understood. Thank you, Jim. With that question in mind, or that statement in mind, would the dollars contributed just go towards housing folks, or would there, how do we look at that from our perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think that so it's housing services that are bundled into shelter and supports. And I actually do have a few, so our corporation council put something together on the legality because we had similar questions. Texas Township's attorney also put something together that I can share. I think that we absolutely could, make sure that the township dollars are going directly to overnight shelter services and use the other more flexible funding for something else.
That makes sense. Okay. Are there any other questions for the deputy director tonight?
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to support, I had similar thinking for that has already been expressed. I do have some concern about coming up with this money in this budget year. We're just starting budgeting for next year, and we're trying to get a handle on where are we at right now this year, and before we make a decision for, and start formulating for next year. So I wouldn't be comfortable making a contribution this year, but certainly we could include in our discussion for next year. I would make the comment, though, it sounds like you were alluding to this perhaps, that the focus has been on building houses, and now maybe we need to change that focus a little bit to providing these services, slightly different than just building houses, moving into something else maybe for a year or two and evaluate that and let the housing market maybe catch up a little bit or whatever, but a continually evolving thing. But it sounds like there's a lot of people involved with this process, so hopefully, you'll be getting some good input.
If there's no other questions, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present, and I'm happy to come talk more about our millage and all the other initiatives we're working on as well in a future meeting if you'd be willing, so,
Yep.
thank
and
you.
We are going to discuss this item tonight yet, so.
Okay, I'll stick around.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item B of the work session. It's a presentation from the Oshtemo Fire Department on the monthly report. I don't see the deputy chief, but I do see the chief.
I'm having nothing but trouble trying to get this computer to bring it up, so I'm gonna wing it, all right?
Do you want to print out?
Yes, you gotta print out.
I need it back.
All right. Then overview this month says 388, and so I put Erin, our executive or our administrative assistant, I put her on it, and I said, what is going on here? And she came up with 397, I believe. So what we figured out in the end was, when we're running these reports, it's pulling reports that are finished. So if there's a report that's open that the crew was investigating a fire, and they didn't get closed out yet or saved, it wasn't counting that. So when I looked at it first, I had a lower number, and Deputy Chief got into it. Some of the reports have been completed, his number was higher, and the final rest of the reports were completed when Aaron looked into it. So we actually ran 397 calls last month, which is near a record high for us. We did have, I believe, 1 or 2 months with winter storms where we went over 400 calls for the month, but it was a very busy month last month. In the picture, you'll see there's a dump truck that went into a ditch after the T-boned the white pickup truck that is in the picture. This was at H and 6th, 55 miles an hour going up 6th Street, and the pickup truck came across H and they hit. The dump truck has 98,000 pounds of dirt in it. Fresh from right back here. They just left here and were heading up and got in that accident. Took 2 big heavy wreckers to pull it out. That was pretty impressive watching that happen. Everybody walked away, everybody was fine, very, very lucky. Running back to the top, hose. Every year we test our fire hose, and a company comes in and they test it for, they put a lot of pressure to it and make sure that it holds Annually, this is something all fire departments do. We have 13,310 feet of hose that was tested this year, and I believe we only lost 100 feet, which is pretty good. Sometimes we'll have some, especially the big yellow hose that connects to the hydrants, if that starts getting pinhole leaks, we gotta take it out of service, it's done. Most of our other hose last quite a while. And the last thing I've got for you, department highlight, I want to talk about one of our firefighters, Josh Lower. He just recently obtained his Fire Instructor 1 certification. He's taken an active role in leading department training sessions in elevator emergencies and vertical ventilation. He's assisting with the trench rescue training for our mutual aid partners and attends a lot of trench rescue training, one coming up in September, to even further expand his expertise. As a driver-operator, Josh consistently demonstrates initiative and a strong commitment to professional development. His efforts contribute not only to his own growth, but also to the continued advancement of the department and the broader Kalamazoo Area Fire Service. Through his dedication to training, education, and service, Josh exemplifies the department's core values of respect, responsibility, and pride. His willingness to share knowledge and develop special skills reflects a commitment to excellence that benefits both of our organization and the communities we serve. So Josh Lower's been doing great. We're really lucky to have him, and we wanted to highlight him tonight. So, do I have any questions?
Thanks, Chief. Any questions from the board? Go ahead.
Can you remind me for call type public service, what is that again?
That is so it was just redone because we used to report to INFERS, now we report to NERIS. So they took, public service can be anything from a false fire alarm, burning complaint. It envelops about 20 different categories that we used to have. INFERS would give us those 20 categories. This envelops all of those together. So anything that is not an emergency that takes our time.
One last question for you. The cardiac arrest, were any of those overdose related, or were those more natural?
Most of them are natural. I don't believe we had any overdose related this last month.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
no bad cooks.
No bad cooks.
I don't have a question for you. Maybe this is for Anna. Because this is the third or fourth time that intersection, H Avenue and 6th Street, has come up as being notoriously dangerous. I don't know, is that MDOT, is that Road Commission, and what prompts a call for something better?
It is the Road Commission's jurisdiction. If you've driven through there, the sight distance isn't the best, and then one of the intersections is stop control, or one of the directions is stop controlled and the other isn't. In a general sense, we could do some low-hanging fruit, if you will, and do some clearing, to just try and help those sight triangles at the intersection. My understanding of this situation was that it was nothing that could have been designed to change the situation. Somebody was speeding through an intersection that they should have stopped at completely before moving forward. But the Road Commission does track, every year they look at the map of where crashes have happened and then the types and the severity of them. And then they analyze different measures that they can either do in a preventative sense or if they can apply for funding. It's typically where you see where they start to put some of the roundabouts or some of those intersections that are skewed and we straighten them out. That's the kind of funding that goes towards some of those improvements. This one I have not heard anything about as they bring forward projects and maybe they don't get approved that year. This one I have not heard has ever been brought forward. But unfortunately, it sometimes takes the examples to make it rise higher on the list, so to speak. But it is the Road Commission's jurisdiction.
Okay, and there is an annual review countywide of every intersection to see.
Yeah, not
where
just
changes-
intersections, even road segments. So if there was maybe a driveway mid-block, that was causing a lot of accidents, those are reviewed too. It's not just intersections, but they collect all we call them UD10s, they're the, they're the
Yeah.
police reports.
I know what it is.
The incident reports. So yeah, those are all mapped and you can query them to have them say by severity, by construction zone, by, is it an animal, is it, you know,
People not
intoxication?
stopping completely, or
Yeah.
people speeding down Sixth Street.
Yeah,
or
in that
whatever.
case in particular, again, just being familiar with the area, any kind of site distance improvements would have to go a little bit further down Sixth, because there's some really big hills through there, and then it's not just as simple as like a clear zone, you know, trying to make those vision triangles a little bit bigger, so it would have to be a larger project.
Okay, I was just curious. I wanted to just know if there were eyes on it.
Yeah, that one was pretty, like Chief said, good that nothing happened. We did lose a fire hydrant in the mix.
We found it after pulling the truck out.
And they did fix it this week.
Yeah. Just to follow up on that, your comment, you used the term, "we could improve the site distance." You mean the road commission could? Okay, no, I just wanted to clarify that.
Trying to be a partner, yeah.
Yep, no, that's fine, I just wanted to clarify that. For the chief, though, you have one item on here, public events, and I was going to mention later that you sent a truck and firefighters to our Music in the Park concert on Sunday, very well received, and I was going to compliment you on it. Is that what you're talking about here for a public event, to our event probably that we had in in June we had one, and then we had a concert in July. Fire
Yep.
truck showed up there.
Yep, so we've made all of those, and then some other things that pop in, the fly-in. We were there, actually Saturday morning, we were at the fly-in also, so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was great, really well received. This past Sunday, firefighters went and grabbed some of those nice small helmets and passed them out to the kids, and they were all thrilled, and seeing them walking around wearing them, and that was pretty neat. And hopefully next year, because we're done with the concerts for this year, we'll be able to maybe advertise it a little more along with the concert, and then maybe you could do like a, touch the truck or whatever and engage with a firefighter, especially since there's kids there and the playground is there and everything. So we can expand that a little bit more. But I wanted to thank you for having someone show up and having the guys there. It was really helpful.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Fire Chief? Thank you, Chief.
All right, thanks.
All right, we're going to move on to item number 8, and then we'll take a short break after this. So next up is public comment on our consent agenda or non-regular session items. Would you mind running the timer? Okay. Got it. Cool. So public comment time is now.
Yeah, they don't really talk about the evacuation. I mean, for the big. They don't talk about it. I don't think that it was the ordinance, what it was, I think.
Good evening, board and in public, and thank you for all that you do. I went on to AI today and I asked, why does Oshtemo Township decline to allow citizen participation in the BES ordinance? And the AI is in bold, and it said, Oshtemo Townships have stated that they do not block participation, but they did reject a formal request from residents to establish a joint citizenry expert advisory committee. The township maintains that drafting the zoning ordinance is a highly specialized and technical legal process that must be handled internally by staff and hired subject matter experts to ensure the law survives the strict state level legal security. First, this is me talking now to EI. First, this assumes that the citizens would be responsible for drafting the ordinance, which is not the case. No citizen is stating that they will provide legal citations or cases. That's up to staff and up to council, and ultimately the legal and enforceable ordinance. Second, this assumes that citizens are not capable of providing documented, verifiable information gleaned from successes and shortcomings of townships nationwide. Placing staff on a knowledge superiority pedestal shows diminished respect for the deep knowledge base for both Oshtemo and nearby township residents. Limiting public input to 4-minute comments and dribs and drabs of sound bites and emails flies in the face of common sense. The technical people who live here and the non-technical don't espouse to know everything about their field as it relates to best placement, but they're happy to provide supportive documentation and certainly not at a $600 hourly consultation fee. Third, this assumes that utilizing public participation can cause potential information leaks, assuming that it would tip off the potential developer to an undue advantage. Fourth, finally, locking out citizen participation creates a line of demarcation between we the people and the township leadership. It invites an image of secrecy. It allows for the assumption of internal integrity issues, lack of trust and transparency. Finally, fifth and finally, given that we have extended the moratorium on BESS installations, it's still in the interest of everyone involved, especially those of us who drink water, to implement a best practice team of sorts, a consortium using models of other townships that have ended up with appropriate BESS site locations. And thank you for listening.
Good evening. My name is John Heiss. I live at 3235 South 6th Street in Oshtemo between Stadium Drive and ML Avenue. I have spoken before this board on several different occasions regarding the 24-hour day and sometimes weeks at a time burning. The smokes can be very thick and very heavy. The smoke is choking and comes into my home. I have to keep my doors and windows closed all the time. If you do not have any air conditioning on the 90+ degree days, it can get dangerously hot inside. These fires rain ash down on my vehicles and on my roof in my home. Sometimes it can look like a snowstorm outside. I have called Oshtemo Township to come out and look at these ashes coming down at the time they were happening, and I did call in. I spoke to a fire investigator for an insurance company. He told me ashes can land on rooftops and eave straws, and if there are any leaves in them, they could spark and cause a home fire. The packets that I handed out just momentarily shows some of the new ways of burning stumps, brush, and trees for land clearing. These machines are called by different names by different companies like curtains, fireboxes, air incinerators, just to name a few. But the theory is the same, to burn wood by blowing air over the fire and do like a set of billows, supposedly to make the fire hotter and burn wood faster. These units are designed to be set up in as little as 1 hour. They can be brought in on like large dumpsters or roll-off trucks. They have no bottoms in them, and they have like a 25 horsepower engine that blows a fan that blows the air into the boxes. They also come with their own set of wheels so they can be moved by smaller trucks. There are some units where you can just dig a hole in the ground and then forced air is brought into the hole and the materials are fed in the fire buy machinery. Some units can burn as much as 17,000 cubic yards of your material a day. These are 50 tandem truckloads of material. This means large amounts of material are hauled in from wherever, then fed into these fireboxes or pits. It should be noted, the faster you feed materials into these fires, and the larger the trees and stumps and brush, if the material is wood or green, it can cause a lot of smoke. There are communities in the area that have banned such burning, and they have to truck their waste to elsewhere. These trucks can and do haul material into Oshtemo, making it a dump site for other materials. I don't like it in my backyard. What about you? You could be next. Please ban all the industrial and commercial banning in Oshtemo. Thank you. I'll explain the packet that I have here on my next 4 minutes that I have. I don't have time to explain it right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Katie Schneider. I wanted to bring up something that I've heard was kind of back and forth. I've had a lot of people that have talked to me about the battery project, and they keep saying, well, it's green, it's great for, it's going to be great for us. But the proposed South Van Cal project, and as Mr. Gemmell pointed out, a lot of us have been studying that. It's been a little over a year now. It's a standalone battery system. Those batteries generate zero energy. Yes, the landowners around us have been openly solicited to bring solar in. But at roughly 5 acres per megawatt, that would take 1,300 acres of solar just to equal the battery's 260 megawatt rating. And that's before accounting for limited solar hours, weather, or storage losses. I'm not sure we even have 1,300 open acres in Oshtemo, honestly. So, that being said, the reality is those batteries would have to charge off the regional energy transmission mix. And you can pull those reports up and see that the majority of that is fossil fuels in this area. And there's a very, very small contribution actually of wind and solar. So the likely business model is simple. Charge when the energy is cheap and sell it back when the energy is worth more. But cheap energy does not necessarily mean clean energy. And every time that electricity goes into the battery and comes back out, 10 to 15% of the energy is lost. For a 260 megawatt system with 4-hour battery system cycled daily, that would require roughly 42,000 to 67,000 megawatt hours of additional electricity generation every year just to replace what is lost in that battery storage cycle. If that lost electricity were replaced at Michigan's average generation emissions rate, that's roughly 20,000 to 32,000 of carbon dioxide greenhouse gas pollution. That would be comparable to the annual electricity emissions of thousands of homes. Just in loss, it would create that much extra pollution. So if this system charges on cheap off-peak power while fossil fuel generation is running, we could literally be burning additional fuel and creating additional pollution just to make up the lost energy of this. Environmental benefits need to be proven with real numbers, and we need to remember that battery is a type of technology, is not another word for green. And that's one more reason why we need to get this energy ordinance right. It is not necessarily good for our community, especially when you take a deep look at the true facts and dig in. Thank you.
Oh, it does. Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, I'm Priscilla Woodhams, and I live in Alameda, Michigan. And thank you for allowing me to speak today. Couple of things I want to mention are, I'm really quite pleased with the 2 items of progress in the best zoning ordinance. One of them is the 2,000-foot setback from homes. I think that is awesome. I understand through FOIA that Director Sephora got some information that the company would not prefer that, I'm sure. But I'm just really proud that that is in there. It respects life here, and I think that is phenomenal. So I hope that we stand for what's right, and I think that's great. So thank you for that. Second thing is, I really, really like the fact that you kept the 30 decibel limit. I understand that they complained about that as well. Why does that matter? Medically speaking, bear with me with a little medicine. We're programmed to sleep at night in certain ways, and when there's certain frequencies of noise, we don't go into stage 4 to 5 sleep and all this business. Basically, noise can interrupt your sleep or can affect your endocrine system, and it really affects children quite a bit, which is my specialty. And we are very quiet here in the winter, and so what they want is a 55 decibel limit, is what the FOIA said to the, I think, to you, I don't know who it was, to somebody. But anyway, keeping it at 30 is appropriate for our quietness that we have in the winter here. We are not along a highway, so you have to judge it in difference between the background ambient noise. And poor sleep in children is documented to cause things like ADHD, learning disabilities. I could go on and on, you all know this. Contributes to obesity. It's a long list. Those are 2 of the things I really wanted to compliment them on, and I hope we stand firm and we don't wimp out and change, because this company that is outside of our state, owned by a man who lives in Mississippi, who literally told us he plans to make millions off of us when someone offered to buy it from him and never enter Michigan. And we won't comment on some other issues he has with his fiscal responsibility that I think I sent you all an email about. So those are 2 issues that I'm just really proud about. The things that I see that are still missing is, I can appreciate the let it burn idea, because if you use the fire water to contain it, that water, as we all know, can't go onto our soil because it's sand, and it will end up in our aquifer and pollute things in there with lots of chemicals that I have given you lots of information on. So I appreciate that, but the problem that needs to go in there is the plume modeling. So if you're just gonna let it burn, even if it's just one, you have to take each individual item in the battery that is of choice. There's different kinds of choice, and you have to send that off to Western. They have a program to do it, and they can plume model how far that's going to be, because that needs to be removed from the surface of our soil so that does not get into our unconfined aquifer. We are different here. We don't have bedrock, and it's just incredibly important that we are realistic and scientific about what we are in a township that's literally named Headwaters. I mean, it's just so ironic altogether. I only learned that recently. I find it quite beautiful. That's all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for your great work. It's really appreciated.
Is there anyone online wishing to make comment, John? Oh, okay. Go ahead and unmute them. Joy, if you can hear us, you're available to speak public comment now.
I can hear you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good evening, board members. My name is Joyce Bortel. I am a resident at the intersection of First Street and M Avenue. I am calling tonight regarding the upcoming road commission project on M Avenue and the planned clear cutting of the healthy mature trees within the right-of-way. I understand while removing dead and compromised trees is necessary, the current blanket clearing approach conflicts directly with Oshtemo's master plan, the rural character preservation strategies within, and the complete streets policies that have been established. I'm an architect and a planner who regularly works alongside traffic engineers, and I know safety and preservation are not mutually exclusive as it's kind of being presented to us currently. There are a couple of considerations I think we should be talking about with speed management. I think taking mature roadside canopy trees away creates a wider view lane for vehicles, which encourages higher speeds. We all know MAV is not flat, so there's a slope stability issue as well. We have steep grades on our properties and the ones next to us, so taking those trees down really impacts established root networks, including the black walnut in our front yard. And I think there needs to be a balanced design approach with removing healthy timber, which prioritizes motorists instead of the residents who currently live in this rural neighborhood. I did speak to their operations director today, and a forester is going to be on site tomorrow looking at the trees. However, they did signal that their findings will reiterate the removal of trees within that right-of-way line, which I think is a mistake. Alternatives like removing canopies up to 20 feet. I think we could target speed reductions. I just think there's a broader conversation to be had. So I would urge the township board to have that conversation actively engaged now. I know they're trying to get these trees removed shortly, but I think there are discussions to be had that honor Oshtemo's existing character, where we're headed as a community, and that preserve our rural neighborhoods. I will email you these comments as well. Thank you for allowing virtual comment. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else online, John? No? Okay.
Name's Tom Whipple. I've been listening to all these things that actually been brought up. And if you're sitting there weighing that out, I see more disadvantages for us, for our township. Does this put us in a high hazard zone? What happens, like, if you're like within like a 3-mile range of this? That what, does somebody have to pay more insurance or house or health insurance being in this type of zone? I see a lot of effort being put forth into this, thinking there's some type of advantage, and I still yet haven't heard anything really positive from all the research that I've seen done out here. And I'm kind of wondering, like, how did the township or the board even get to the point like where they thought this should be something that should be allowed in this area? I thought we were supposed to be actually promoting this area and trying to make it more enlightening for people to want to take and move in this area. And I don't see any of that. All I see is like more danger of anything of these things blowing up. Does anybody have any idea of what gets blown into the air if one of these things incinerate? There's so much poisonous stuff that gets in there, and I haven't heard anything from the EPA saying that this is how long it stays toxic, how many generations it's going to take for this to actually go away. It just seems like it's going to be asking for trouble. And if one does blow up, I mean, how long is this going to take to clean up? How many generations? And the permanent damage too. They probably see this enlightening because as far as like we're the Great Lakes state, but I sure don't want anybody taking advantage of that and ruining it for all of us. The fishing is a big thing that actually for tourism that comes in, the beaches too. And if something like that gets into the water, can people even go swimming with that? It just doesn't make any sense for all the effort. And then plus, like, where is the kickback for like us residents and taxpayers on this? I can see that actually by the time they get done, for all the electricity it takes to take and run these things, all the water it's going to take to keep these things running cool and efficient. And I'm surprised that the EPA or somebody hasn't stepped in and just said, you know what, you're not building any more of these things. If you can't build them safe, we don't want any more of these being built, and we certainly don't want this in our area or state. Can anybody say anything as far as like the advantages of this? Because I'm seeing more disadvantages to this installation of that, all this effort and money being spent. And I think a lot of us actually don't see the benefit of this. And I'd like to see our township prosper and be free of all these contaminants, or why even take a chance of putting a time bomb in our area like this? I think these are actually important things that need to be considered. Thank you.
Good evening. I hadn't planned to speak, but I feel moved, so I'm going to. I'm Miranda Vinden. I live on M Avenue. So echoing Joy's comment online, I worked with the Kalamazoo Road Commission, and I got one of their road supervisors to come out and walk with me and look at some of the trees, because I was surprised that some that were very clearly dead or dying weren't being removed, and and then some that were like seemed pretty great, like that beautiful black walnut that I specifically advocated for is being taken down. So it was really surprising. And the so some of the trees, the guy was like, I don't know why that wasn't taken down. So he marked some of them, and he said, I'm not going to remove any red X's. Like, I'm not going to change my mind on any of these. And I was like, oh, it just hurt a lot. So my ask for the board is, please help us. Please advocate for our township and send a message to the road commission and say, we want to align our residents' needs and our long-term vision for our roads and our road safety. So please help us, because your residents are fighting so hard to protect the trees along their roads. Myself included, Joy, so many people in this room. So whatever you can do, please help us. I want to echo something that Katie said, and it was talking about like, what is the value of these new battery systems? And there's like these peak hours, right? And the idea is these batteries are going to take up this energy in the non-peak hours and then give it back at other hours. So it's like, but what I heard, this kind of scared me, was that money, that it's like they are going to take that excess electricity, but it's going to mean that our rates are like going to either go up, or we're not going to reap the benefits of that off-peak hour that used to be. So it's sort of like the people who have the means to absorb and take those resources are now taking from the collective community who don't have the means and resources to hoard that electricity. So that seems really counterproductive to an equitable society. And I don't know what you can do to help me about that, but I'm just putting that on the record, that that's really concerning from an equity and a human rights situation. Another thing I wanted to add was I read something about batteries. They're all in the news, and there was this one that said, oh, there's these new zinc batteries that have this amazing ability to be charged and recharged, and they're just the next best thing. Are we too soon in pushing through lithium batteries when there are better technologies being developed? And that's where you guys can help us by putting in your ordinance, we want the latest, greatest, best technology, but also it should be tested. We want it to be safe. But so it's like, but maybe there are better technologies. These zinc ones are less likely to be on fire, is what I heard. So that's what I'm saying, is we need to have really great science, and maybe we're too soon. We are too soon in protect us by limiting batteries that we already know are problematic. And that's probably all I have, so thank you.
Garrity, I've heard so many people thank you guys. I'm not going to be one of them. I think you guys are dragging your feet. All you need to do is say no. I mean, setbacks. What the heck's a setback going to do us? It's just going to be that much longer for that stuff to settle down. Or the noise thing. They're going to not listen to that. Why don't we just say no? We don't want it in Kalamazoo or Oshtemo. It's been over a year you guys been sitting up there. I don't know what you've been doing, so I don't know. And Katie and her team has offered an attorney that's been through this, attorneys, not going to cost you a dime or maybe just a little bit of money, but our attorney doesn't want them in there. Two heads are better than one, I think the old saying was. So why don't you guys listen to Katie and her team or anybody out here. And then this fire chief with this car or this truck, $100,000. We called around. There's not a fire department in Michigan that has a response vehicle that's electric. And Oshtemo's going to be a first? And after 10 years or something, that battery's going to cost $30,000 to replace. And his Tahoe, how much is it going to cost to replace that? Put a new motor in, a new transmission? We're on the road, maybe 10, 15. You know, I don't know. You guys just, and then this battery deal, who's gonna benefit? It's you guys, because you're gonna get money from the town, from this place for your taxes and stuff. So you guys are gonna be the ones to think, we're gonna be screwed. Thank you.
All right, we'll close public comment, and we got one. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead, I didn't see you there. No, you're good, come on up.
I spoke at the last board meeting about the toxic smoke and the volume of smoke on South Sixth Street and approximately the 3000 block. I kind of would like to provide an update. When prior to coming to the meeting at 5 o'clock 2 weeks ago, the air smelled crystal clear at 3235 South Sixth Street. And it was a late night, as all you know, so after 10 o'clock we got home. I got there, and there was this very acidic, strong, intense, heavy, oily smell. Being a farm girl in a family of excavators, I can tell you it was petroleum-based. So the next morning at about 9:35, when I arrived back on South Sixth Street, gosh, no surprise, there's smoke. Windows couldn't be opened again that night. So, and I filed 2 grievances based on both of them, and the one grievance, when the smoke was going on, I came right here and said, hey, this is happening right now. I'm real disappointed that 2 weeks later, nobody's had the courtesy to even contact me to say, we looked into this, or whatever. I have a statement from an elderly resident who I spoke of 2 weeks ago. I quote, I have asthma. The smoke makes it difficult to breathe. I use my CPAP to help breathe, but I'm not supposed to be on it all day long. The smoke comes in my home and into my CPAP machine. This lady is very disabled. She is very old. Think of your elderly relative, neighbor, grandparent, whatever, who's unable to open their windows and doors because of continuing smoke during record heat waves. This lady does not have air conditioning. She's unable to go outside because of her breathing difficulties. And she does not have a vehicle. So when this happens, she cannot escape what is being described as her hell on earth. And that may sound really harsh, but you know, we kind of define life in terms of quality. So I want to explore her quality. She lives in a house that can reach over 100 degrees. She's unable to do anything to lower the temperatures when it's really hot. She is fighting dehydration. She's struggling to breathe. She's tethered to a CPAP machine in an attempt to clean the air that comes into her lungs unsuccessfully. Her house, she says her house never ever clears of the smell of smoke. She's lived in this house for decades, and never in her retirement years did she think that this house would become her unhealthy prison. I don't know what much I can say, other than, this is important. We've heard from a person 2 weeks ago, his house is on the west side of the road. This lady and other neighbors I spoke to, his house is on the east side of the road. They have in common, my house fills up with smoke. Gosh, when you've got houses on both sides of South Sixth Street filling up with smoke, guess what happens to South Sixth Street? Visibility. People describe it as you come down the kind of hill, you're in the densest fog you've ever been in. This is also a safety.
I'm sorry, ma'am, your 4-minute time has expired. Yep. Thank you very much for your comments tonight. Yeah, there'll be more opportunity for public comment later. Yep. Okay, we are going to take a short break. It's 6:38 right now. We'll reconvene 10 minutes to 7. So we're going to stand in recess now. See, we're going to get started again here. I don't have a gavel. I need a gavel. Oh, it's right there. No, it's all right. Maybe, yeah, I would. If I started with it, sure, but I don't want to introduce it halfway. All right. Got everybody back. All right, where did we leave off? Okay, we are on item number 9, the consent agenda. We've got the meeting minutes from our regular meeting on August 11th, appointment of an individual to Friends of the Parks Committee, and the second reading regarding the wastewater service ordinance. Anybody present wishing to remove anything from the consent agenda? If not, I would take a motion. Go for it.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, and item number 10 is topics for board discussion. We've got one item, the energy ordinance. I'm going to ask Jim, do you have any updates for us? Because I know the Planning Commission is actively working on an ordinance, and I'm a little worried about us having much discussion about.
Right, no, and I
Okay.
think Michael could also add, I was very pleased with the last Planning Commission meeting where the ordinance was read through and comment was taken. And I was just explaining to Joe earlier, I was very excited, in addition to all of the other, I'd say hundreds of pages we've received numerous written, constructive comments, and I believe that following the proper procedure, we are taking that public input. There have been a lot of changes to that ordinance from the day it was first drafted to the point where it's at now, and a lot of that has to do with a lot of the public comment. I have a 2.5-inch or 3-inch binder full of all of the public comments that we've received, read every single one of them. I know Jody has read them, but we continue to get written comments in, and I believe procedurally, following the statute, following the regulations with regard to how ordinances are adopted, I think we're doing well, and I was really pleased with the public comment. I thought it was very constructive. One thing I will let the board know, and I'll let the public know, I'm a little concerned. There is a case out there, and I think it's in Livingston County. I just pulled a case, and I haven't had a chance to review it. There is a challenge being presented to moratoriums, and I will be honest with this board, as any attorney who's done any research on the issue, you hear often from me, you can only do what you're authorized to do by law. There is no law out there that says any community, city, county, or township can enact a moratorium. We do it, it's always subject to possible challenge, but this case, I believe, will actually challenge the concept of whether a community has the right to enact a moratorium. And so we will follow that very closely. It could impact this township, but I can't tell you anything more than that at this point. But
And I have to
And
echo.
then Trustee
echo
Chapman,
Jim's.
you are our Planning Commission liaison. Did you have some?
Yeah, we read through line for line. We made some changes as we went line for line. And the public comment, as Jim said, it was very helpful, very constructive. I think it was done in a collaborative manner, and it was very welcome. We only got through part of it. The 9th, we will be readdressing it, going through line by line, reading it out loud, and making some changes and raising questions as we go through it. It is going to be a long process. It is not going to be up to this committee for quite some time, as we are taking that input and raising our own concerns as well. So it will be a very long process, but I think that the public, we're very active with it, and I think it's our decision to read it line for line was a very good one.
one other comment I would make is, even though there is a challenge to the issue of moratoriums, I wouldn't be overly concerned in that anybody that wants to get into this process has to get in the MISO queue. And again, my understanding is there's nobody impacting our community right now that's in the MISO queue, the last time I checked.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from other board members?
Yeah, I watched the Planning Commission meeting too, and I agree with what you guys said. I actually, the public comment was by far the most valuable part of it, I found. And I actually was taking notes, and it spurred me to even come up, some of the things that the public had stated that, you know, they wanted to see in there that we didn't have in there. I wrote those down. I'm like, absolutely, those are excellent points. And then I actually took a few of them a little bit further. I don't know at what point we discuss those things, if it's appropriate to discuss what, for example, the things I would like to see included, as far as what's been discussed already at Planning Commission, or whether we would.
Again, I would leave that initially to the Planning Commission. As a board, I wouldn't weigh in on the ordinance until it's basically brought to this board. I think individually, if a board member wants to contact the planning director and indicate things that they thought were interesting and comment to her directly, I think that would be appropriate. I can tell you that the planning director was also very pleased with the information that was brought forward, particularly the people that did as requested, presented written comments, very helpful, much easier to follow up on and verify the information and then determine what is practical for incorporation. In talking with Jody, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but my understanding is you're going to read through all of it once, take all of the comments of the Planning Commission, take the comments of the public, and then come back with, so all of those things that were mentioned, I think will come back to the Planning Commission for consideration at some point in time. But I think they're going to read through it all first before moving forward.
Which is going to be a very lengthy process.
It is, but again, I hopefully we aren't, trying to think how to say this. Obviously, everybody's concerned. We watch the MISO board regularly to make sure that somebody's not making a move that we're unaware of. And so I think your planning director is keeping that in mind. And then when a draft comes, then it will be time for this board not only to work among yourselves, but again, to continue to work with the public.
Okay, and I just have another couple questions for you, legal questions. So I know that one of the concerns that has been broached is, you know, because this is taking so long, the developer that's interested, that has leased this property, could potentially just skip us and go right to the MPSC at any point in time. Now, would there, my first question is, would there not still need to be a formal application by them first to this township? And then B, I know there's really no case law, at least at this point, but if they were to
Very
do that,
little.
the fact that we are actively working on a WIO would be in our favor for the MPSC to say, no, you need to wait until they finish their ordinance.
Again, this is hearsay. I don't have any direct evidence of this, but the fact that we are working on an ordinance, this board has asked that the Planning Commission develop a WIO, and then I've heard through the grapevine basically that the MPSC really doesn't want to take these on if in fact there is a chance to let a local unit of government look at it first. So
And the fact that we are actively
think
working on a WIO is in our favor.
I think it is,
Okay.
and it is what the board asked the Planning Commission to do.
Okay.
I know I'd love to just be able to say no. I mean, I understand that comment from the public. I understand that. It would be nice to simply
be
say,
so
we're
much
not
easier.
going to address this. But that's not what this board decided. So I think your planning director and your planning commission members are trying to thoughtfully go through it, determine what they believe is in the best interest of the community. And I know everyone's focused on a particular area, but between the WIO and between the environmental ordinance that we have put in place, I'm not sure that's even a viable site. And therefore, they have to look at a broader picture of, well, what if another location is proposed? And so everyone, again, I know it's concerned. If I lived there, I'd be concerned. But we can't just focus on that area. We have to focus on the ordinance itself. And then, if in fact it is adopted at some point and an application is filed, apply all of the conditions. I'm very pleased with the environmental work that's being done behind the scenes. It isn't all public yet. But as I've said before, there are key phrases, key statements in Public Act 233 that I think give us the greatest strength for protecting the community are the environmental regulations in Michigan. Stronger than any other, what I would think of as basically an arbitrary standard. These are scientific standards, and we've heard from doctors in our community. I think if we focus on that, that is our best defense and best protective method for the community as a whole. And I think that we will get there. I think we will get, in my opinion, again, it's just me talking, and it's just words, but I think we will have one of the strongest ordinances that's been adopted.
Thank you for that, and I just want to clarify one thing that you said for the public. I mean, we know it, but we take for granted that not everybody has been with us through this entire thing. When you said, I wish we could just say no, but that's not what this board decided, I want to make it very clear that if we could just say no, there is a huge risk in that as well, of going straight to the MPSC and then having the most liberal setbacks and parameters and whatnot, and we have no say in it. So I just want to make that clear for anybody that heard that this is not what this board decided.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
not
don't think
that
anybody
simple.
on this board wants or is inviting one of these facilities into their community. It's
Right.
because of the way 233 is structured that you've had to respond and try to address it as best you can. I've been at the MPSC. I've had my head handed to me on a platter at the MPSC when we fought the power lines. I'm not entirely confident that the MPSC will listen as well as this planning commission would, or hire the same level of experts that we might very well engage if we were given the chance to review an application. So I would actually, I guess I have more faith in the local people to build a case for or against, and the board to decide for or against, based on our ordinance. And then if an applicant doesn't like the decision that's made, then they go to the MPSC. At least we've vetted it here.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we're going to move on. Item number 11, we have discussion and consideration budget amendments for the Oshtemo Fire Department. Chief McComb will introduce. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go to the first one. We've noticed at Station 2, we have 3 trash cans that sit outside of the station. Every week they are full and overflowing. So we thought it's time to move to a dumpster. Looking at prices for dumpsters, we're actually going to save $20 a month on a dumpster. And so we'll have more space to throw the trash away. However, Oshtemo Township does have an ordinance that they have to be enclosed. So what I'm asking for is $6,000 in leftover funds from the window install at 5-1. The windows came in cheaper at Station 1 here than what we had budgeted. So we're going to use $6,000 from that leftover funding to purchase a pad and fencing for the dumpster to meet Oshtemo's obligations.
Thank you. Any questions from the board on this one?
Yeah, just I'm curious, what was the reasoning? We just overestimated what it was going to cost for the windows, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. It's always a kind of a shot in the dark during budget time. We check with places, they give us estimates, and then sometimes things come in cheaper, sometimes they don't.
Okay, because you guys seem to find stuff. Maybe we need you to help us work on our budget. Just kidding. No, if you're ready for a motion, I'll make one. Oh, go ahead, Neil.
Now you're gonna make me forget my question. Oh, so you get a building permit and things like that too? Is that included in this?
We will follow all the
Yeah.
rules.
No, I just wanted to make, we follow the same rules.
Yeah,
Even though we're the fire department.
Yep, I can't tell you what all those rules are, but whoever we select to do the job always has to follow everything.
Super. I just wanted to make sure that everyone's heard that.
Yeah.
Would you like to make the motion?
1 second before that motion, do we want to do a motion per, or can we move all three potentially? How do you want us to do that, Jim? Because I think there's 3 amendments.
If there's 3 amendments, you can move them all at once.
Okay, would you like to proceed with the other amendments?
Yep. Any more
Is that okay
questions?
with you, trustee Cole? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
well, I mean,
I'm
yeah.
asking.
Yeah, so far it is.
Okay,
Unless you can't get agreement on them.
Right,
that's fair. Let's hear the amendments so
Yeah,
we can
let's hear the
figure out how to
other-
vote on them.
All right, any more questions on this one? Okay. On the next one, I'm going to ask for an amendment to my amendment because we just found out today we had a new bill come in that we were not expecting. So proposed motion 1, transfer $3,000 from computer operations fund to equipment maintenance. We just got a bill today that comes out of equipment maintenance that was $1,500. So I'm going to ask, we asked for $3,000 to get us through the rest of the year. The $1,500 was unexpected. So I'm asking for $4,500, and I want to change computer operations to $211,344,98,000, which is capital outlay equipment, which makes more sense for that to come out of capital outlay than it does operations. And the second proposed motion, amend capital outlay equipment to utilize 2,400 in available funds from liquidated purchase orders for the purchase of a storage shelving and wheelbarrow, of storage shelving and a wheelbarrow for the fire department training division. We've got some outside storage issues that we need shelving for to take care of our equipment. And in a wheelbarrow to help us with, when we're training, we're moving a lot of equipment and dirt, soil, things that we're doing for whatever type of training we're doing, if it's trench rescue or whatever.
Any questions on this one from the board? Otherwise, go ahead with your last amendment.
Last one, fuel has cost us a lot more this year than what we were expecting when we budgeted last year. So I am asking to transfer $20,000 from operations carryover to fuel, oil, and grease to cover our fuel expenses. We went from $2,800 a month to $5,000 a month in fuel costs.
Any questions on the fuel budget amendment? I would be in favor of supporting all 3 of these amendments.
So would I. I'll make a motion to approve the 3 budget requests that were presented by the chief.
Support.
With the amendment of the 4,500.
Yes, with the amendment. Thank you.
I'm the note taker today.
So we have trustee Chapman and trustee Cole. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unopposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Where are we at? Okay, number 12, discussion and consideration of the Kalamazoo County Winter Shelter Funding Request. We heard about this during our work session earlier, so I'll open this to the board for deliberation.
As I mentioned, my reservation with this is that we have a millage, and I think that the millage should be prioritized to the immediate needs of our community. To donate $25,000 more of the citizens' money, I'm not sure I support. I think that we need to prioritize the immediate need of our community, and I think that I would like to wait to see that prioritization before providing additional funding.
Fair enough. Thank you, trustee Chapman. My apologies before you started speaking. I was going to ask if we should just table this item until we have a full board. I think this is one of those issues I'd like to have everybody's input on before we make a decision, but that's up to this group here. So I'm asking if everybody wants to make that vote tonight, yes or no, or if you would like to wait and table this till a later date so we could have a full board for the conversation.
I'd like to know what everybody else's, that's present tonight, feelings are, because you have swayed me with your points as well, combined with my initial concerns, with it really just being rather vague, and we're waiting for proposals to come in. I'd almost be, with those two things combined, more comfortable waiting this year to see how it pans out.
Yeah, generally speaking, I'm in favor of making the contribution. Which way wasn't much of a concern, I didn't think, so I'm okay with it. Trustee Sikora?
I would agree with waiting, or not waiting for a full board, but waiting for any budget allocation until next year or whatever. I'd like to see some more information on it, and that's where I stand.
Same.
Okay. So no action will be, no funding for this one right now, but it's not, we can, the supervisor and the clerk, if they wish to bring this back to the board, it'd be up to them at this point, so. That's fair. We'll close the conversation on this, and we're going to move on to item number 13, discussion and consideration of the liquor license for Nash Restaurant and Bar.
Thank you. My name is Devin Loker, and thank you for your public service. I'm the attorney for Nash Restaurant and Bar. We're looking at the old 7,000 Stadium Drive building. It's not too old. It had Feed the World Cafe and then Skinny Kenny's in there. It's a pre-existing facility, pretty much ready for use, pretty turnkey, maybe some minor fix-it-ups to make it look new. They'll be going for a higher-end, fine dining, kind of a bistro experience. Hours are looking at Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 11, serving lunch and dinner. Gordy here is going to be the chef. He's been around the restaurants for over 30 years and finally looking to open his own. Megan, his significant other there, is a professional taxpayer. No, she does accounting, bookkeeping, all that. She'll make sure that all the bills get paid. And like I said, we've been working with Jim to utilize one of your pre-existing liquor licenses that's already been issued. That should leave you a couple on your books for future development. But I'm here to answer any questions. The parking lot's already there. The lighting's already there. Any other questions? Happy to.
I have to ask for clarification. So you are going to transfer the existing license that's there?
Yeah, we can work through that with you.
Okay, great. Then basically, you're simply approving the use of a liquor license at this facility, which will save the two. I didn't know whether we were going to go with a new one or not. I know that was up for discussion.
Yeah, we're happy to go with the one that's there. That's fine with us.
That will save you, then you still have two in your quiver, basically, that you can use. We have received or sent out all of the necessary paperwork. If the board approves that, then we can move the process ahead with the finalization of all the documents. I do want to say for the public that we did receive a letter from Mr. Nigel, who owns the property, and of course, he would certainly like you to approve this liquor license, and he would like to see a tenant back in there. And then we also received a very nice letter from Michael and Renee Hinckley, Glendora Lane. They live close by, and they said, we want to make it known we wholeheartedly support the issuance of the license to them, as it would be nice to have a restaurant/bar within walking distance of our home. So.
I know I'm in favor of this. I've said this many times. We need more local restaurants in this community, not necessarily the chains and the such. And as we build our community, I appreciate your commitment to invest in the community and that this would be locally owned and operated. I have no reservations whatsoever.
You didn't want to bring up the lack of the vegetarian main dish?
I did look at the menu. There are some vegetarian options.
You can take that up with the chef later.
I've actually already mentioned it.
Is there any other process here, or are we able to move into board discussion?
Basically, it is technically a public hearing.
Okay.
And so you do have to open up time for public comment on the issue.
So I'll open public comment on this now. Anybody online, John? No? All right. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and we'll enter into the board deliberation. I'm
if there's
excited for the new endeavor coming into the community. I think this is great, and reusing an existing liquor license is definitely in the township's best interest.
Yep, I am as well. I would make the motion to approve the liquor license request for Nash Restaurant and Bar LLC at 7,000 Stadium Drive, Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49009.
Support.
We got a motion by trustee Cole and support by trustee Chapman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Congratulations. Welcome.
Congratulations, and thank you.
All right, we're going to move on. We are on to number 14. We've got a resolution before us tonight for the Consumers Energy Streetlight contract, and it looks like Zach Pearson's going to walk us through this.
Yeah, so I'll give a little more background than what I included in the memo that was in the packet. Over the last several years, we've moved forward a number of street lighting projects to convert or add new lights to the inventory. And with each one of those projects we've brought forward, we had a new resolution to amend the existing lighting contract with Consumers Energy. And last year, through trying to work through some process improvements, we found that neither party had the original contract that was being amended over a number of years. And that triggered a reconciliation with Consumers Energy that was completed all at no cost to the township. So they did a complete inventory of every streetlight in the township that included GPS locating and providing those coordinates, checking the conditions, verifying that they were working or not, and then updating the billing. So previously we were receiving 4 separate bills for streetlights just because as part of these different contracts being introduced and amended. So the hope through this was to also reduce the number of contracts coming to us for billing each month, to simplify that, and then kind of streamline this process moving forward. So with this process, there was a number of lights that were identified that the township was being billed for that were not in existence anymore or not even in the township boundaries. Nothing too crazy like way off in Kalamazoo or anything, but just on boundary streets that probably should have been billed to that other municipality. And then there were a number of lights that were not being billed to the township, kind of a similar scenario that needed to be added. So overall, we had a net increase to our street lighting inventory of 49 new lights. That is about 5% of our total inventory that was being corrected through this process. So it's a very minimal change overall. And I did ask consumers for just a clarification of how something like this might come about. And so it starts with, there are a number of reasons that this could happen. And then she provided 9. So just some of them were, there was no signed contract when new lights were installed, which would trigger a reconciliation, so they straighten out the inventory. Sometimes lights are damaged during storms and removed and then installed later without a resolution, so they don't make the inventory. Technicians completing repairs, multiple lights on one work order, so they don't get recorded properly. And then when they manually make billing adjustments, sometimes there's just mistakes with additions and subtractions. You know, when the conversion might happen, it might be added but not subtracted from one side of the inventory. So that was just a few of them. But moving forward, they are introducing a new outage reporting tool that we'll be able to use to kind of track any of these issues, and then streamlining that process. And they do allow 2 times a year we can request a complete inventory that comes through with a spreadsheet that has those GIS located. We can then plug in and then verify the location and that we should be billing for them and that they actually are present. We can physically check and confirm that they're there. So overall, I don't expect this change to affect our annual budget for the street lighting fund. The budget that we approved was set up based on the previous year's average costs, average monthly costs, and then we add a 5% kind of inflation rate to that. So with what that was set at, and then when I ran numbers today based on our billing through July, we had only used about 54% of that budget. And then I ran kind of proportional this change, increase in lights. It is likely going to work out just based on the highest bill that we've received so far this year to about another $3,500 to get us to the end of the year. So I expect this to all stay within our existing budget and not require a budget amendment. But what we need to do here today is adopt a resolution to amend the standard lighting contract, which essentially puts it into existence. And then we will have a starting point to work forward from here. And then through this process, we've had a number of projects that were requested by residents or conversions that we looked at and planned out that have been on hold until we could get this contract established. So we will have new amendments and resolutions to amend this new standard lighting contract in the coming months that we'll be bringing forward. We have a number that are already in the queue. So this sets us a starting point moving forward, and we will be able to track the inventory and any additions, changes, amendments from this point moving forward.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
First, was there a true financial reconciliation? Because if we were being billed for things that we did not have, and then we have the billing for the things that we did have but weren't billed for, have they performed a full reconciliation, or is this just estimated?
This is just the number of lights that will be added moving forward. They have not stated whether there would be any billing changes to previous bills, any adjustments made from the past. Moving forward, we can expect our bill to increase. I didn't question that much further because we have an increased number of lights. If they went back to look at any adjustments on bills that had already been paid, it would likely be an increase to those. So I thought that I should leave well enough alone.
The last question is, are we going to have a record storage system so we have a copy of the contract? Because we've filled out several of these in the past. We voted on these in the past, and apparently they were useless because nobody kept them.
Yeah.
So do we have a system in place to ensure we have proper contract control?
Yeah, moving forward from this starting point, I imagine they'll be housed with the legal department, and then we can attach them to GIS so that we have that tracked in there along with the inventory.
I just want to say, appreciate the work that you have put into this. I know a few years ago, we had the streetlight millage, and one of the biggest issues was tracking and keep tracking of where all of the lights were. And when you called them and said, hey, can you tell me and give me an update? They were like, no. So I totally appreciate everything you've done in here.
It's been a long process, and consumers did a lot of the heavy lifting through this, and physically locating 1,005 lights. Took a long time, but they did it.
Did you go through and verify those 1,000?
I used the cheat code. We did it through GIS, so.
Is there a GIS now map of all the lights?
So I will plug that. We do have a layer on the GIS map that you can look at all the street lights, and it pulls them up. It tells you the type of light that's there, and if you click that light, it will take you to consumers so you can report an outage too. So that is a tool on the GIS website.
I've used it. Works.
There we go.
If the board's so inclined, you have a resolution on page 38 of your packet.
Well, I guess I would move to adopt the resolution to authorize Consumers Energy to make changes to the standard lighting contract for Oshtemo Township.
Support.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. This is a resolution. Jim, do you mind calling the roll?
I will call the roll. Kristen Cole
Yes.
and Michael Chapman,
Yes.
Claire Buska,
Yes.
Neil Sikora,
Yes.
and Zach Ford.
Yes.
That's 5 with 2 absent.
Thank you
Resolution
very much.
passes.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Jim. All right, let's get my agenda back up. All right, and we are done with our agenda items. Moving on to 15, we've got public comment. Anybody wishing to present public comment, you have 4 minutes at the podium.
I just have a couple of comments. I'm Bruce Gothi, M Avenue. I do not look like it, but I'm a big eater. So I'm looking forward to a new restaurant. I appreciate the comments made about the Planning Commission meeting. I'm in favor of it, reading it line by line. I don't think it has to be a Planning Commission member. I'll volunteer Zach, but you can see Mike Chapman, he took over, he pinch hit, he got tired because the chair got tired, and it's fatiguing, and you guys have done a lot of work already, as have members of the public, looking at all the issues, things to consider, changes to consider. So I would gently suggest not having a commission member do it. See if you can find another volunteer like Zach. On to the batteries. And I'm really hopeful that the environmental issues that were hinted at and can't be discussed are going to win it for us. When we hear that the company is, that New Edge is upset about setbacks, or maybe wants the old school battery to go in, or they're upset about noise, that suggests to me that there's a back and forth discussion. And to me, it just seems like there's so much data that shows lithium ion batteries are not safe, lithium iron phosphate batteries are not safe, the kind that they used at Moss Landing, those aren't safe. And more research and more comes out, published, peer-reviewed research, that these things are not safe. Maybe the zinc will be a new hope, but I could go back and look at the previous board meeting somewhere in the past where I just said it's not ready for prime time. This is not safe. Don't put it in our neighborhood. Don't put it in our backyards. I'm really happy to repeat that all 7 board members are on record as being against placing it on Van Cal. And Zach Ford will lay his body down in opposition to lithium ion going into the township. So continued good luck. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Miranda Vinden, and I just wanted to offer one suggestion for the next time the ordinance, the energy ordinance is read, that it goes up on the screens in the room so people can follow along, because I'm a visual learner, and I'm sure lots of other people would like it too. So that's all I have. Thank you.
With the T-shirt on. Attorney Ken and I had a discussion during the break that was very enlightening to me, because I've been pounding on the let's do a joint citizen committee kind of thing, and we actually are in kind of a disguised way. And what I would suggest is we have a great communications director here. We have great communications on email. If we were to be aware of all the work that you guys have done, and then be aware of all the information that you have gleaned from us, and show us that you do, in fact, impart it into the ordinance, if you show us that our work is useful and valuable, we've got the means to let us know how well this thing is rolling in terms of cooperativeness. So that would be my suggestion, and I don't want to talk any longer. I'll make it sound silly, because it's pretty easy to let us know we're doing good. Thank you.
Priscilla Woodhams, I just wanted to add in that currently there's a goal, which I'm sure you all know, of 2,500 megawatts in Michigan. And Michigan is already at 1,332 megawatts. And the MISO queue has 13,204 megawatts. So what does this mean? We all are aware there's no place where people haven't been pointing out what we all have been pointing out. So what does this mean? This isn't great technology that's coming in strong to the MSPC. We have to keep protecting our people like you're doing. And the more clear you are about the right way to do this, the safest way to do this, the way that doesn't harm people, the more likely this is not going to be here, given, my goodness, 13,200 in the MISO queue is, sorry, I view that as vultures, because I hope you all understand that there is not, this isn't green technology. I'll say yet, maybe someday it could be, it isn't right now. That risk is too high to lose our water. I mean, good gracious, or our homes, or all that other stuff. So just some happy news I just learned as I was sitting there.
Good evening, Katie Schneider again. I just want to thank you guys for allowing the Planning Commission the time to go through the ordinance line by line. I know it's grueling. It was grueling for all of us, and I appreciate that so much. Michael, I hope you've drinking your tea and you're ready for the 10th. I hope so. I also appreciate the discussion about extending the energy system moratorium so that this does not become a race against the calendar. Taking more time to do proper due diligence on projects this large and technical is responsible and respectable. And I can tell you, as we've heard tonight, that one pass through this ordinance will not be enough. Important issues were already identified in the first sections, while some appendices and environmental provisions, they're not even wrote yet. And we went right through those in the first couple of pages. As they're written, I expect that we're going to go through those earlier sections again, thoroughly. I'd also like to encourage the use of red lines during that process so that commissioners, board members, residents, and frankly, the developers can see we are working on this, and that's the point of the moratorium, is that you're working on protecting public health. And more importantly, the Planning Commission is going to need your support to bring in qualified experts now in drafting this highly technical document. I know that we're following NFPA 855, and that's a fire standard. I know nobody likes to read it, and Chief McComb just left, but I've read that, and I know that in that, it calls for having to have professional expertise in making sure that you're compliant, in making sure that you have wrote in your ordinance what needs to be in there to be compliant. It's kind of a chicken and the egg, so they're going to have to be there. And I know that those experts, they're not cheap. Annex G itself calls for a risk assessment work to be directed by professionals experienced in fire protection engineering, another one that knows energy storage risk assessment, and another one that understands the operations of these facilities. Those people aren't cheap, and there's not many of them out there, honestly, although I do have a friend whose husband is one, so we'll see what we can do there. That expertise, again, is needed while we're writing the ordinance, not when the application comes in. That ordinance is your list of rules. When the application comes in, if it wasn't in the list of rules, trust me, they don't want to pay for those experts. So we're going to need that help. And I can tell you that other communities ahead of us in this process have learned these lessons a really hard and expensive way. There's not just the group of us here in Oshtemo that are working together. Some of us are also in a state coalition. We're learning from each other. We're seeing this come in hot and heavy. And I can tell you it's not only PA 233 that's going to get you. PA 234 says that once $10,000 has been put into a project that's been approved, you can't force the developer to stop or change that project. Force. Again, these are profit projects. You're going to have to watch that one. That's why you need the experts now. I know that it came up that the MISO queue, I follow that closely as well. September 10th is when the 2026 cycle deadline comes. It is expected within 30 days to learn who is in that queue. We're hearing that the kickoff would be December 9th. So somewhere between September and December, we'll know if New Edge is in the 2026 queue or if they're going to have to go back to 2027. When 2027 kicks up and starts over, who knows? Nobody's on to 27 yet, especially in that world. So again, I just encourage you to have open minds and be ready when the Planning Commission asks for experts. I know during our last financial audit, it was shown that we have nearly $6 million in unassigned funds. I certainly don't expect $6 million for experts, but we need to be ready for those numbers. Thank you.
I have another letter that I would like to read from another resident who lives on the east side of South Sixth Street, and I will quote this. Smoke with east wind enters our house, wondering if it smells something other than wood because it doesn't smell like normal bonfire. My wife woke up in the middle of the night to smell smoke. She thought our house was on fire. She looked across the road and saw fire. She thought it was in the woods too, and ran to the fire department next door. It turns out they were burning at 5 a.m. on Sunday. Think of the terror. You're in your house, you wake up, you think it's on fire, you don't know if you're gonna get out. She didn't even take the time to make a phone call, or maybe couldn't find her phone. I mean, and it's a distance. She's running down the road at 5 a.m. in the darkness to try and get help. So in closing, I'm confused as far as what's taking place, as far as, I know there's a committee, I've asked some questions about it. I was just told that public's not welcome, you can't be, and it was full, and members' names were not offered. That bothers me. And so I'm asking, could somebody from the township just meet with me and explain what's going on, why this has been going on, why it is getting so much worse. I think people along that stretch are entitled to do that. And as I've done research on constant smoke and like that, the smoke may dissipate with winds. From what I'm reading, your lungs continue to hold it. And particularly these poor people who are on like CPAP machines and like that, who are having this smoke forced in. So appreciate any assistance that can come along the way to help this. Thank you.
If I could just quickly comment, and we're not going to go back and forth here, but I do have some comments about that in my trustee comments, which is the next agenda item, about information about that and what we can do. So I just want to let you know that.
Good evening, my name is John Neuenhuis. I handed out a packet earlier on the burn here. The reason for the packet, and I'll explain how this ties in. Again, like I told earlier, some of these machines, they're very, very portable. They can be set up in your neighborhood within an hour and can be burning. Some of these machines, again, said to have 17,000 cubic yards of material can be burned in a day's time. I show some of the pictures like a roll-off dumpster. They can be brought in on a roll-off dump truck. They do not have a bottom. They have a motor in the back of them. They blow a fan and blow smoke, blow air into these boxes. Create a lot of smoke. On page 2 also shows an excavator with a large dump area feeding materials into one of these dumpsters. On page 3, again shows at the top left-hand corner, multiple dumpsters being set up for areas that are, materials are hauled in from other communities to be dumped there. That goes right along on the right-hand side. On the bottom is just one of the air manifolds that were just a hole can be dug in the ground real quick. These being set up and be burnt. The scary part about all this is I'm bringing this about is because it's been brought to my attention that one of these facilities is on 6th Street and they do burn. I witness daily truckloads after truckloads of material being brought in. I am the victim of night after night of burning, 24 hours a day, 7 nights a week, from these commercial burns, from materials that are hauled in from other communities and being dumped here in Oshtemo. We don't want to become the dump site for everybody else's waste. And the only way to stop that is put a complete and total ban on burning in Oshtemo. And I just like to get your help on this, because I'm suffering on this. Thank you very much.
Seeing no other public comment, we'll move on to board member comments and committee updates, and I'll start at the other end. Go ahead, trustee
With
Cole.
me? I'll save my notes that I took from the planning commission on your advice. But I do want to say, I want to say a lot. I'm going to try not to ramble. I will be watching all of the planning commission meetings. I will be taking notes so that I can discuss the things that have been presented that I've even wanted to expound upon, particularly the things that have come to us from the public. I also want to state that I want to thank you guys, the public, for being here, coming here to these meetings. I know you would probably rather be home with your families. And I know that this has been a very bumpy road, and we're not done yet. And it hasn't been easy, and there's been, hard feelings on both sides at times. But I want you guys to know that you guys have been the catalyst for what I view as very positive change in this township, with this board in particular. You guys have been the catalyst for the community conversation dialogues, the updates that we put on our website providing information. I know that there's some misunderstandings, particularly as it relates to, let's say, the 4 minutes of public comment. And I think, again, those are just communication pieces, because, again, I'll reiterate what I said at one point is, I understand if I were sitting in your shoes, I would be like, well, 4 minutes, that's all we get to speak. But again, it goes back to the fact that we do have this time biweekly to do township business. And if we just had open dialogue for however many minutes, we would all be here till midnight at least, and I know nobody wants that. So we do have to do our township business. That is why we have the community forums, the dialogues, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that there's frustrations that at times it seems like we aren't collaborating or taking your input in, but I assure you we 100% are. You guys, the information that you all have brought to us, particularly in drafting this ordinance, has been invaluable. And it is 100% going to make the end result of this ordinance draft, the final draft, I should say, 100%, it's going to make it much, much stronger than if we had just done it without your input. And also with the gentleman that came up here and has been here multiple times to talk about the situation that's going on with the burning next door to your house. Again, these are things that they hold us accountable. They put a real face to the situations, and I think it just hammers home the importance of, we're not just drafting a burn ordinance. We're drafting an ordinance that is going to affect people's livelihoods and their health, and again, so I just appreciate you guys being here. I know it hasn't been easy on both sides at times, but I appreciate you understanding and I guess the respect that I've seen, I guess, us turn the corner a little bit, and I just want to extend it back to you guys as well. We really appreciate you guys being here.
That's all.
Thank you. Trustee Chapman?
Well, the planning commission did meet. News to everybody. And I would encourage you, if you're so inclined, to watch the proceedings, in particular, public comment, as we said. As Jim mentioned, this is a draft. It is truly watching sausage being made, which is a vile and disgusting thing, but the end result, if you're not vegetarian, is quite good. And so by bringing these parts in, I expect our product will be much better than if we did it on our own. But it is, like I mentioned, it's going to be a long deliberative process. And I'm sure, as much as I would love to make everybody in the world happy with things like this, there will be people who are not happy. But please understand that you've been listened to. We're trying to incorporate those things. And if there's anything that isn't caught on this first draft, there will be additional readings with markups so that we can keep track of it, like you do with any document control. Right now, it's a living document. It's going to change. It's going to change a lot. The comments, though, were greatly appreciated. I don't think I have anything else going on right now.
Thank you, Trustee Chapman. Treasurer Buska?
Very brief, we're wrapping up summer tax collection. The last day to pay that without penalty is September 14th, so that's coming along really well. And I have my public media network meeting on Thursday, so I can update more at the next meeting on that.
Thank you. Trustee Sikora?
Thank you. Last week, the Friends of the Parks Board met, reviewing our recent programs and getting set for this past weekend's final Music in the Park concert with the reggae band Zion Lion. The concert went off wonderfully and was the best attended of the three this summer. I did want to thank the Oshtemo Fire Department for their attendance and handing out fire hats to many of the youngsters in attendance, and hope that next year we'll be able to publicize that a little more and encourage folks to come out and touch the truck or see a truck and ask the firefighters some questions while they're there. I also attended a work session at the Drake Farmstead Park on Friday the 21st. This coming Saturday the 29th from 10 to 12 at Flesher Field is our next event, Using Your Senses, a guided nature walk. It's free, just drop in, no registration required. All ages welcome to explore new ways to experience the beauty of nature through the sights, sounds, and fragrances of nature. So come along for a leisurely stroll through Flesher Field Park as we smell, feel, listen, and look at nature in our shared space. It's about 3/4 of a mile walk on gentle trails, and I hope to see you there. Meet up with our volunteer host, Lori, at Flesher Field's Oshtemo Rotary Pavilion at 10 a.m. Then the Parks Committee met on Wednesday, the 19th, and received updates on the new Fruit Belt Rail Trail and park maintenance. We then discussed the draft parks budget, making some suggestions and gaining clarification about some items. And as someone who walked the trail last week and then discussed with a buddy I met there where to have lunch, I'm looking forward to an additional dining place nearby the Fruit Belt Trail, which is getting a lot of use. I also met with the landscape designer about our flagpole plaza project just outside here, concerning some of the plantings, some of which didn't make it and will be replaced. Regarding the smoke on 6th Street, last meeting I did ask, I thought, that be an agenda item on our meeting today, and that was missed. But due to the absence of a couple of the members, there wasn't a lot to be shared at this meeting because they were the people who were going to have information. So I'm going to push that again to be an agenda item on the our next board meeting. Also wanted to learn a little bit more about how complaints are handled. We had talked about the burning ordinance, but it seemed like when we had that discussion, we talked more about people getting permits. I'd like to learn about how complaints are handled. I don't think we really got a lot of good information on that. If you call at, on a weekend or after hours and, there's a fire going on and, well, okay, you get a recording, that's not going to help anybody. So it's like, what is our plan to address this issue, but also what is the bigger plan for addressing after-hours complaints? Do they go to the fire department? Do they go to the ordinance enforcement officer? But I want that to be a discussion item on our next agenda. And I would be happy to meet with you folks either right after the meeting or unfortunately not this week, except Friday. I could meet Friday, and just get some information. But the township supervisor won't be back until next week due to a family medical thing. So I'd be happy to at least get some information, additional information from you folks, and then I can work with the supervisor and the fire chief. Let's see, next, I just want to kind of direct it to the township board members. I'd like to see us get the updated list of who's on what committee, see what committees are meeting or not meeting. Obviously, I've mentioned a couple here that I've been at. Some I think we need to re-energize, find out exactly what they're supposed to be doing and have them meet to address issues that we keep talking about but don't seem to be getting addressed. So I'd like to have that as an item for our next meeting also, put that on the agenda. And I know in particular, I think we have an HR committee, according to the list. I interact with a lot of employees who have concerns, and they're wondering if that's getting to the board. And I know we have a board committee, so I'd like to encourage the HR committee that from the board's standpoint to have a meeting and work with our HR director and start addressing some of these things that are coming up. They may be misunderstandings, they may be people who just don't understand how things work or whatever, but I think as a board, we need to make sure we're moving forward and taking care of our employees. They're very, very talented. They want to work, they want to get things done, but we also, have to make sure we have a good working environment for them. So if you need an additional member because someone else on the board can't, not that I need another thing to do, but I'll volunteer to join that too or stop by. And I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sikora. I do not have any committee updates. I'll be looking forward to seeing that committee list and getting some of those back together again. I do want to second your call for a little urgency from the HR committee. I've also had a few grumblings that have made their way to me, which isn't in and of itself bad, but might be a recognition that things aren't quite right. So getting that HR committee together and getting a prompt readout back to this board, I think, is in our best interest. So I'd like to see that done. With that, our business is exhausted. It is 7:52 and we are adjourned.